Okay, so tell me, what did the first days of the Indianapolis Recorder look like?
Well, so we started in 1895. We were actually a two-page church bulletin. So not even an actual broadsheet newspaper, two-page church bulletin. And then we grew. George P. Stewart and William H. Porter started the paper together. George P. Stewart Printing Company. So obviously it makes sense a printer will start a newspaper, will start a church bulletin. Then a couple of years later, Porter sold his shares to Stewart and we became a newspaper, obviously. And actually, the Stewart family owned this paper up until the 80s. Yeah. So they actually owned the paper all that time, from 1895 on to the 80s, when they sold it to Eunice P. Trotter, I believe. So yeah, and she was the only woman that's ever owned this paper too. So we have a lot, we have a great history. Great history. We were on Indiana Avenue for a long time.
Nice.
So yeah, yeah.
What need do you think they saw in the community to first the church bulletin and then to expand this? What need do they see?
Information. I would say information, and that's still vital. We still need that. Information for our community, information. I mean, when you think about church bulletin, you think about it's news, right? I mean, that's what church bulletin is. You go up there and you recite the happenings in your church. So then just to expand and broaden that to the entire community, and then to expand to the entire city, that shows that we have a thirst for knowledge and information.
Historically, why even have the need for a black newspaper?
Whew, historically, there's so much there. I mean, there's a big need because when you think about history, think about what was happening, you think about Reconstruction. Even though we're in the North, still was a Klan, a big Klan, country. This was Klan land. Indiana was a Klan stronghold. So there was a need because we had so many things that we were dealing with at that time, and you want to spread vital, real information. You want to spread the truth, and so the recorder is alive, was alive, became alive, and still alive because it's vital for the truth to be spread about Black people and to actually represent us as human beings, as people who are three-dimensional, people who, we eat, sleep, go to work, pray, go to church, go to school, just like anyone else. But those stories weren't told. Our stories weren't told accurately. And so that's why we exist. We have always said we are a voice for the voiceless.
Absolutely. What issues, are there any issues of the newspaper that stand out in terms of some of those change-making issues?
Oh gosh, for sure. Reconstruction, you have Emmett Till, Civil Rights Movement, President Obama, even since I've been here, 2020, social protest of 2020, social justice, I call that the second civil rights movement. We are in the second civil rights movement. It definitely feels similar to, I wasn't alive then, but it feels similar to what I've read about and what I see. So that's why I call it the second civil rights movement. We are in the midst of that. We have taken that charge to harken back to what our ancestors did, to what those who came before us did, and fight the good fight, that good trouble, as John Lewis said.
Absolutely. And so a lot of newspapers have had to make that transition from a physical copy to a digital copy. When was that decision made, and what kind of conversations led up to that?
I'm not sure when it was made, but I'm assuming somewhere in the early aughts, like most newspapers. But like most newspapers, that wasn't top of mind. The physical paper that you can hold, breathe, smell, touch, flip the pages, that was always top of mind. And I have to say, we still print, like most papers, we still print. But there has definitely been a shift in our thought process. And because that's where our readers are at, the money is still in print, and people are dedicated subscribers still want their print issue. They want that copy. They want to flip through those pages. But we know our younger audience, they don't read the newspaper. They don't flip through pages. I remember going to a school talking to some sixth graders, and they didn't know how to close the paper back up and put it back together and fold it up. And I was like, whoa, when did this occur? But it makes sense. They don't grow up with papers. They're not grow up with papers like I did, like my children did, because I'm a newspaper person, so obviously I bought papers. I subscribed, I should say. But so we have transitioned, and we continue to transition. our transition is ever evolving. Is seeing what needs are out there. Are we meeting those needs? How do we keep on actually putting more content on our website to actually keep traffic coming back, because traffic is the name of the game. And we want people to consume and read, what we write. Our stories are important. So we think, but not just think, they actually are, right? They are very important. We are a service to this community, so we want people to read it. So we're constantly trying to see what we can do to make our website more attractive, make our stories more attractive, make sure that we're getting eyes to the to the website. And actually, if you want that physical copy, you can still get that physical copy. And we also offer an e-edition, which is what looks like the paper, but it's online. So it looks just like the physical paper, but it's actually online. Some people want that look of a paper still, but they don't necessarily want to get a physical paper. So we're going to get you where we're going to get in where we fit in. We got you covered, whatever you need. But it is definitely, like I said, an evolution. We keep growing and working hard to do better and look at what are we doing to meet our readers' needs, our community's needs. How can we get information to them? That's the most important thing. Is how can we get the information to them? That's what's vital. However they get it, we're happy they got it.
And let's backtrack just a little bit. You mentioned generations that have grown up with this paper. Mm-hmm. Did you grow up with this paper in your house? I'm
not from here originally. I'm from Muncie, so I heard commercials. Okay. There was a little jingle, which I'm not going to sing because I will not do that. But there was a jingle that about the recorder. And so I know that jingle. I heard that jingle all the time growing up. And so I wanted to come to the Recorder because I thought, this is an amazing place. It's a Black newspaper, Black owned, covering Black community. What better place for a Black journalist to be than a Black newspaper? So when I got my first job here, I was so excited because I worked here before as a reporter years ago. So I was so excited because I was finally I'm at home. I'm at the Black paper where I've been wanting to be since I was a little girl. So when I'm out in the community and I hear people talk about, my grandpa used to deliver the papers for the Recorder, or my dad was a delivery man for the Recorder. I'm like, really? That's just so exciting to me because they're like, oh, I grew up with the paper on my grandma had to have the Recorder. I grew up with it on her dining room table. I'm like, those are the stories that just resonate with me. It just means so much. It just means so much to the community. When I guest host on Tina Cosby's Community Connection show, and callers always want to talk about the Recorder picnic. I wasn't around for this Recorder picnic, but they're like, I have fond memories of this picnic. So this paper means so much to people, and it's just an honor to be here, to be at something, to work for something that means so much to so many people. And I don't take it lightly. I don't take it lightly at all.
Talk about the pride that I'm sensing and how you explain this. There's, as you mentioned, being a Black journalist working with this Black newspaper. Tell me more about that pride there.
It is just, it's just really, you feel like you're really doing a service for your community. I've been able to meld my two passions together, Black people and journalism. And, I'm able to do both of the things that I just love and have a passion for and serve my community in a way that I think that I can benefit them. I'm not a preacher. I know my gift, and my gift is the written word, and my gift is journalism. So I'm able to use that to be of service to my community and to impart wisdom, hopefully knowledge. We write stories that matter, that I want our stories to engage, empower, educate. I want our stories to resonate, and hopefully if you're angry about, the potholes in the street, you call the mayor because you read a story that told you how to call the mayor, or the mayor's action council, I should say, not the mayor. Don't call the mayor. But, I want those stories, or there's an issue and you take it to the city county council, or you go to the state legislature. We want people to actually do things because they read something, or you decide you want to volunteer. You read something, you said, oh, I want to volunteer at that community. Or I want to go to meet the artist because I read about this. Those are the things that I hope that people get when they read our articles.
And how do you think the community connects to this newspaper? As we just mentioned, generations have grown up with it. What do you sense from that? I
think the community connects because there's ownership. they feel like it's ours. The Recorder belongs to us.
Yes.
You know, it is a paper that has been there, and sometimes we take our things for granted because it's always going to be, it's been there, it's going to always be there. So there's a little bit of that sometimes too, but I think in general there's always this sense of we have the Recorder, you know, and everyone doesn't. You know, we're the fourth oldest newspaper in the country, black-owned newspaper in the country. So obviously there's a lot that's not there, you know. So I think people recognize that, wow, we have something to be really proud of. And just, you know, just the idea of 127 years old. We're a black-owned business for 127 years. First of all, you don't get a lot of businesses 127 years old to begin with, right? Then you don't get a lot of black-owned businesses. So that right there is, I just think you should just be so proud that we've been in existence. And we owe that to the community, right? I mean, that's who keeps us alive. They're buying our papers. So thank you.
Yeah, we are proud.
Yes.
So let's talk about how you all are looking to serve the community now. What kinds of conversations happen here with your coverage?
We're always having conversations about our coverage. We have a meeting every month about what we're going to do for the next month. And we actually just today planned another meeting for one of our story packages. We try to come up with the story package. Well, not try, we do. Every quarter, we have a story package dealing with the issue, taking a deeper dive at an issue that is very important in our community. So before we've done diabetes, just in November, looked at that because, of course, diabetes is a big deal in our community. Health disparities are obviously a big deal in our community. So we wanted to look at something that affects so many people, but yet there's so much information that's disinformation, misinformation, and just no information about diabetes. We've done taking a look at deep dive at poverty, the environment. So we're always kind of maternal mortality, infant and maternal mortality. These are things that we're always focused on. Domestic violence. We just did a panel discussion and stories on teen dating violence, because it's Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month.
And so when you and the team sit down and you're helping to lead the team for the next edition, what are just some of the things that you're thinking about, the goals that you want to make sure you check off for your readers?
First of all, we want to try to make sure we answer your questions. You know, as editor, when I read as a reader. So if I have questions, then that probably means your reader will have questions. So I try to make sure we answer the reader's questions. We try to make sure that we're talking to relevant people. We try to make sure we have black people in the stories. Sometimes when you have officials, then the officials, who they are, you know, they may not be a black person. But we try to get that real person in, and that person that actually is living this experience, and that person should be black. That's important to have our voices in the story. So we're always trying to think about how can we actually impart the knowledge that we think the reader should know, or that we hear from the community that people want to know. People, you know, they let us know they're interested in things. You know, we have a Facebook page and people post comments. They let you know what they want, for sure.
You mentioned digital. How has it changed your readers engaging with you all in a digital method? How does that impact what you do?
I think it's made it be even more ownership, if that makes sense. I mean, because you don't have to physically come here or call anymore. You can just pick up your phone, you're scrolling, and shoot a tweet to us, or retweet, or if you're on Facebook, you can write a comment. So I think there is even more of, oh, let me just go ahead and say this. I mean, I even think that with myself, you know, as someone who, I'm like, oh, I'll just share this, or I'll retweet this. I feel like if I feel like, you know, I have a connection with a celebrity because I'm tweeting the celebrity now, you know, and it's like, I think that is kind of how that digital space has made everyone kind of feel closer in some ways, because they're right there, you know, they're right there, and they can respond immediately. You know, sometimes we see it and we respond, and it's like, wow, you know, that was instantaneous for some people, you know. So I definitely think it's made it just that, it's just given more of a bond and more ownership, for sure.
Yeah. I think people will see the Indianapolis Recorder and they'll ask, why do we still need a black newspaper?
For so many reasons. Unfortunately, our community still isn't covered the way it needs to be covered. There's still a lack of diversity in most newspapers. That's lack of diversity in thought, in ethnicity, race, gender. Some of the decision makers are still white men, let's be honest. A lot of the editors are still white men. So oftentimes we are excluded. And when you look back historically at how mainstream papers treated our community, there's a lack of trust. That lack of trust still exists. And so we are here because they trust us. The community trusts us with their stories. They know that we are going to at least listen. You know, we're at least going to listen and have some empathy and compassion. And that is important. That is one of the things that is so important in journalism to me, is empathy, compassion. And we're an advocate for the Black community. And I don't take that lightly. That is in the vein of Ida B. Wells Barnett, advocating for the Black community. When she, you know, there's this idea that we should be unbiased. You can't be unbiased when it comes to the truth and accurately portraying someone. So when I think about news and how news has treated Black people over time, when I think about how newspapers cater to the Klan, when I think about how papers cater to lynchings and advertise lynchings, no one said back then, you know, why are you biased? You know, so, but you're accusing Black people of being biased when we try to tell our true stories and be our full selves, our authentic selves. So I don't see it that way. I see it as we're actually, again, giving voice to the voiceless. We are actually letting Black people be who we are. So that's why we still exist, because there's still a need. Like I said, if we're in the second civil rights movement, there's a need for us to tell those true stories, those full, complete stories. That doesn't mean that we don't think, you know, that we're perfect and we don't tell the truth about even ourselves. No, we tell the truth, period. That's what we're in the business of. But we're not just going to let stories about Black people only be stereotypical negative stories. We're not just going to go and talk about the neighborhood in which we are in. We're in the Martindale-Brightwood community. We're not just going to let every story about Martindale-Brightwood be a negative story. You know, there are great stories here as well. So that's the difference. That's why we're still needed.
And I see that a huge part of your content, you try to make sure that you have guest writers and op-ed pieces from various different backgrounds. What's the thought process behind that in terms of what content you push, you cover, and that you allow some of these op-ed columnists to add to?
Well, we're not monolithic. You know, we are not just one voice. I don't always agree with someone who's Black. Just because we're Black doesn't mean I'm going to agree with you. We don't all think the same, contrary to some, you know, some who believe that we do. And so there are people who like what I say, some people who don't like what I say, you know, but we give you a variety of Black voices because we are a people who have variety. You know, we don't all look the same, talk the same, dress the same, think the same. So why should we all have the paper just be only one voice? That's not fair to our community. That's not full representation. And the idea is to represent us fully. So then why would we, if we're asking for full representation, why would we not do the same? That just doesn't make sense to me. So I don't always agree with all the columnists, but that's not what I'm supposed to do. They're supposed to make you think, and they make me think. I definitely think, and I think about, I don't agree. And why don't I agree? You know, that's how you grow. That's how you grow as a person and become more thoughtful.
We're not a monolith. I also have seen, especially recently, that you all are covering other issues that affect other communities outside the Black community as well. What's the thought process there?
Well, the thought process is we're a growing community. Indianapolis is growing. And so we actually need to sometimes make connections with other groups of people that who live in this city, because there's still, in that diversity, there's still connection, there's still commonality, right? You know, so we want to make sure that we are making connections with those who share similar interests.
What's your message to your readers, to the community that you've served for over a century?
Support the Recorder. Continues to support the Recorder. It's not about me. It's not about anyone in this building. It's bigger than us. The Recorder is bigger than us. 127 years I'm not that old, obviously. So it's been here before me. I want to see it here after me. You know, it's about the Recorder, and it's about this legacy and this voice for the voice, and this truth in journalism. We do good work. The Recorder has always done good work, and that's really what it's about. It's good journalism. It's here for a reason. It's bigger than just any person.
I love that. That's good. And then lastly, any plans for the future that you think we should know about, or what's the thought process as you move into the next 5 years, the next 10 years?
Wow. Just stay tuned, because we're constantly evolving. We're constantly rethinking things and going back. We have packages coming up for sure. We have some new people coming on board. So we're actually expanding our newsroom. We're growing, so that's exciting for me to actually have a bigger team of reporters, and that just means we'll have better content. Website will be updated more with better stories and more stories. So I'm just very excited for what's happening with the Recorder for 2022.
And how did the pandemic affect you guys?
Oh gosh, the pandemic kept us busy. We actually held the first panel discussion, virtual panel discussion, in the city. I do believe we were the first ones. The following week after the shutdown, we held a panel discussion. We had the unemployment office there, workforce development. Dr. Virginia Kane was there. We just had a lot of people there who were able to answer questions since everything was so new. And we just followed that on through the whole time. We had panel discussions continuously to help people navigate, because no one knew what was going on. It was changing every single day. Like what happened in the news we heard in the morning was changed by the evening. So, you know, we were constantly keeping people updated on what's going on and trying to make sure we had our readers were informed. We know there's a lot of misinformation going around, so our job was to kind of quell that misinformation and make sure we had good information that people could actually turn to, a trusted source, and know that we were actually trying to make sure that what they had was the right information too, because it's about lives, right? I mean, it seriously boils down to saving people's lives. It's not a thing we took lightly.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, just support the Recorder. I mean, we're here in this community, and we just love doing what we do. And I speak for all of us here, because we wouldn't be here if we didn't love it. I mean, it's a true labor of love for everyone who works here.